Welcome to another episode of Worthington Kitchen. I'm Oscar Martinez, and today we're making Frijoles Charros, aka Cowboy beans. So, the ingredients we have today are hot dogs, chorizo, bacon, ham, pinto beans, jalapenos, tomatoes, onions, and garlic. And this is a pretty easy meal you can make for the family. Mix it up. I know the cold weather's coming here, so it's time to warm up the soul, warm up the body. So what we're gonna be starting today with is we're gonna be starting to cook with the bacon. You wanna chop up the bacon, make bacon bits. Cut open the package here. You know, bacon is already salty meat, so you don't have to season it that much. High on sodium. So we're gonna cook the bacon first, and let's chop it up. Slice up the bacon into bacon bits. You wanna cut them fine down, cook them down. You know, who doesn't love bacon? Right in the morning, put it in your food. It's a well-seasoned meat. Chorizo is also a salty meat, so you don't have to put too much salt in this dish. But my name is Oscar. I've been with Studio 3 for a year now, and I decided to make Frijoles Charros just because it's something I grew up eating, something my dad would love to make to eat. It's more like a home-cooked, good feel meal. I can think back eating it for years and years and years. You know, it's just one of those meals that makes me feel like home. I just love Frijoles Charros. What are some meals you guys like to eat that make you feel like home? You know, you can comment it down below, put it down in the comments, but this is just something I love and adore. And then it's one of the things I can look back to where I first learned how to cook too. My grandma put me in the kitchen from like 6 years old, and then one morning I remember cooking eggs, coffee, and quesadillas for her, and she was surprised. I just copied what she did and I just started doing it, and then it's just something I love to do. And they always say the fastest way to someone's heart is through their stomach, so you know. So chop that up. I've also lived in Worthington my whole life for 25 years now. I actually graduated from WHS here. But a lot of the foods I do cook, primarily a lot of Mexican dishes I learned from my mom, my grandmother, my father. Everybody in my family loves to cook. My sister, my brother, man, even my dog. But we all love to cook meals. It's something I feel like it's a love language. It's you know, cooking for someone and being like, you know, you make them feel good. You do something for them. But you chop it all up, and then we cook the bacon to, well, it's nice and crispy. You don't want to overcook it because we're going to be cooking the onions. Halfway done when it's cooking, we're going to be cooking the onions with it. Nice caramelization. Cook the bacon. You love that sizzle. Nothing yells out happiness than the sizzle from a bacon. Make sure you don't let the bacon stick to the pan. You don't want to get that burnt. I feel like everyone has those meals from their childhood or growing up that makes them feel at home. The Frijoles Charros was another one. Another one is my mom's empanadas. My mom would make chicken empanadas, and man, those make my heart smile. Come to the onion. And the way I do it is I cut on the buds. Easier done. easier to peel off the outer layer, and that beautiful inside. Look at that beautiful onion. You could bite into it like a nice crisp apple. I mean, who am I, Shrek? But beautiful, beautiful done. Cut it right in half right there. And then you do cutter lines like this. Nice trick that I learned growing up with cutting a knife is you put your hand on the end of the blade, hold it tight. You want to be in control of the blade. All the straight ends, and then just chop it, and you got all that diced onion right there. Look at that, look at that. Remember, don't forget about your bacon. Don't forget about this nice gold right here. Mix it, mix it. You want it to stick to the pan. You want it nice and crispy, because for later, that's gonna add that beautiful texture, taste to those beans. Something I always found interesting is how a lot of people make similar dishes, but we all make it different. I know people make frijoles charros, and they use different kind of beans. They use some people use different black beans. Some people use lima beans. I prefer pinto beans. It's just something I grew up with. Going good. Put that onion, dice it. You want to dice half an onion. Nice and nice, squared right there. That's what you want to aim for, a nice diced onion. And then you chop it up right there. Ain't that beautiful? So you do half an onion. And remember, don't forget about the bacon. That's your gold. That's your bread and butter. You don't want to stick into the pan. Right there. You hear that sizzle? You hear that sizzle? Man, what a beautiful sound. And then we take that off the heat. Pan's still hot, so it'll be cooking a little bit. And then we're gonna put that to the side, because then we're gonna be cooking it later with the chorizo, the ham, and the hot dogs, and the vegetables. So now, we put that onion to the side. Now, we chop the rest of the vegetables. Starting with the tomatoes. Man, I love myself a good Roma tomato. Cut that in half, boom, boom, and we dice it. Boom, 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 boom. Watch your fingers, boom. Gotta give it a big boom right there. And I do about, depending the proportion, but we're gonna about do 3 tomatoes today, 2 jalapenos. I usually do more. I love that good kick of spiciness, but when you're serving others, it's nice to be considerate. And you could always add more spice for yourself. Is there any holiday dishes you guys usually make for the holidays? I remember growing up a lot, my mom would make pozole. My sister makes pozole verde now. That's something I always look for the holidays. I feel holiday dishes are always the best. A lot more cooking skills I learned growing up too is I used to work at a place called Ground Round, and I had a cousin that worked in the kitchen, and I was a server, busboy, and sometimes a waiter. And I would be in the kitchen a lot, and they would show me some of the tricks. And after work, the cooks always were allowed to make a meal for themselves. So I would be back there and they would give me tips and too. So that was also interesting working at a restaurant growing up in high school. Move that to the side and then we move to the jalapenos. A lot of the heat from the jalapenos comes from the seeds. So I always like taking out the seeds when I'm cooking for others. I make too hot. Me, as I got older, I started liking spices a lot more. So I started leaving the seeds in, especially when I make salsa. So, big tip, seeds, a lot of the spice comes from the seeds. So I always cut the tip of the jalapeno off, and then just cut it in half. And then you would take a spoon and scrape out the seeds. So then you grab a spoon, and you take it to the tip, and just scrape it out right there. And that's where major of the spices is, and that's where you get more flavor. And that's all for who recommends it. And you dice it up. Same thing here. You grab it, spoon, and you scoop it out. Scoop it out right there. You hear me? Scoop it out. Get those seeds out of there. And you dice it up. Delicious. Should we do one more? Should we do one more? I think we should do one more. If you're nodding on the screen with me, I agree with you. And if you're not, I'm just gonna assume that you're nodding. So let's do one more. Cut the tip off right there. Dice it in half. Ooh, what a beautiful sight. You see that? All that spiciness. Scoop it out. Usually, if you want to make a salsa and you want to make it spicier too, the more seeds you leave in, the spicier it's gonna be. So you scoop it out right there. That would eat frijoles charros too is whenever there's like a birthday party, it's a nice side dish to add to. You know, a lot of time I have aunts, cousins that would make Spanish rice, then frijoles charros on the side, and then, you know, we usually have a grill out. We make riblets, asada. That's another memory I used to have. And that's also one thing that I would always be competitive with my cousins, because I would always be like, oh, my frijoles charros are better than yours. So that was also another fun thing we used to do. Right over here, we would grab the cooked bacon from earlier and we would put it to the side. And we use the same pan to cook the vegetables. And we cook the vegetables with the chorizo and the other meats. Chorizo cooks pretty fast, so you always got to keep an eye on that one. You don't want to burnt chorizo. Slotted spoons are always the best for this, just because get the grease through. And you don't want to put too much grease in your pan, so you take a lot of the bacon grease out, and then you still have a layer of grease there you can still cook with. Right over here, we're gonna open our chorizo. So you cut one in. You can buy store-bought chorizo, or you can go to your local butcher shop. A lot of the Hispanic butcher shops here in Worthington have chorizo. You could buy by the kilo. Fantastic, tastes wonderful. And then they also sell gluten-free chorizos, beef, pork, different varieties. Today we're going with a beef chorizo. So right over here, turn your hand and put the pan to a medium heat. Light that up. Whoo, ain't that hot? You know what they say, if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. And put it down. What a beautiful sight. Like chorizo, and you just smash it up, break that apart, kind of like ground beef. When you're making like a hamburger helper, you just want to ground up that meat, spread it, and it's also an oily meat just like bacon. So we're gonna take some of that oil out once it's further cooked. And you already could hear that sizzle. You hear that? Ooh, what a delicious sound. Growing up, I always wanted to go to culinary school. That was something I thought I was going to be a chef in my life. But as I got older, I realized I like cooking more as something I enjoy to do for family or friends than to do for a living. But I love the world of cooking. I've always been interested in it. Me and my siblings would watch Chef Ramsay shows all the time growing up. And it just became a tradition. And anything we watched and cooked, we tried cooking without the yelling, of course, you know, but it was something great. Cook that chorizo, and like I said, it's an oily meat, but it's full of flavor. You will smell it right away. It's well seasoned, and like I said, you don't really have to put salt in it, just like bacon, just because it is a high sodium meat. It does have a lot of sodium in it. Really, most sausages, most meats like that are full of sodium, so you don't have to season it too much. You don't want your food to be too salted. You put that to the side of the heat, and then we throw in our onions and let the onions cook there. Get them nice and caramelized onions in there. Cook that for a little bit. Next would be the tomatoes and jalapenos, and put it back on the heat and just cook it. And what a beautiful smell. And then we put it on a low heat. We cook it on a low heat. Let that caramelize. You know, great things take time. The more, I usually say, the longer, the more flavorful. So we put that on a low heat, let that caramelize. While that's cooking on a low heat, we're gonna mince some garlic, because we're gonna throw some garlic in there. So a good tip is when you're breaking apart garlic, you break your piece out, right? And then just give it a nice chiropractor crack, and then boom, you peel the garlic out. Easy 1, 2, 3. You don't got the skin sticking on your fingers, and it's easier to peel the garlic like that. The good old chiropractor meat. And I usually do about, depending the size. Today, these are pretty good big garlic cloves. We'll be doing about 3 cloves of garlic. You want to mince that nice and thin. Garlic and onions are always a great combination, especially when it's protein dishes. There you go. See how fine that garlic is, how small it's getting? Perfect. Now let's get another one right here. Like I said, you grab it and you give it a good old ready. I'm gonna crack its back. There you go. How are you doing today, garlic? Nice. Okay, and you just peel it. You see how it just peels off? Usually the skin will stick onto you and it's hard to peel. There you go. And just mince it right there. Watch your fingers. Don't forget about the chorizo either. Make sure it's nice and cooking smoothly. Don't want anything sticking to the pan. Don't ever forget about the pan. Nice, nice. It's cooking well. It's cooking well. And for the people of Worthington watching, anyone who wants to come to the show, just contact Studio 3, and we're more than happy to have people come here so we could spread different dishes here in Worthington, different cultures, different homes. Everyone loves to eat, so come share your meals with us. So, and then at the end of the episode, we will have our contact information. So we'll put our email, phone number, all that nice stuff. And then, so like I said, everyone can come. Everyone loves to eat. Come share your meals. Come share your recipes. Back to the regular scheduled program. Mix the chorizo up. Hear that sizzle. And like I said, it is an oily meat, so it's just with the bacon. We're gonna take out some of that oil later on. And we turn off the heat. And then we take out some of that oil right there. And what I usually do, instead of pouring it, just because chorizo is such a delicate meat, I just get a slider or get a regular spoon and just take out some of the oil. And remember, always dispose of your oil correctly. You don't want to throw it down your sink, or else that's how clogged pipes happen. So always be careful how you dispose of your oils. Now that we've done that, we turn the heat on to a low again. And see how the onion right there, you see how it's nice and has a starting to get a golden color on it. We start throwing in the rest of the ingredients. First, the vegetables. We put in the vegetables first. They're gonna cook. They have a lot more water content in it, so we want that to evaporate a little. So as the vegetables are cooking, we're gonna cut up the meat. So the bowl where we put the jalapeno, tomato, and garlic, we're gonna bring it back to the pan, and we're gonna put it with the chorizo and the onion. And just put that in. What a beautiful sight. And you just slide a spoon and you mix it. Mix it on a low, medium heat. Slow and steady wins the race. And you could raise it to a medium. Ovens are different. Electric ovens and gas ovens are very different. So also to get to know your oven, get to know the setting. So some burners burn hotter than others. So we're gonna raise this to a medium heat. Let that cook. Hear that sizzle. On our protein cutting board, we cut the hot dogs. And you know, depending how much meat you want to add in, I usually add in half of the packet or so. But you could add a few more too, depending on how much people you're serving. And you just put them together and dice it up. Little weenie cuts. Looks like these hot dogs keep trying to run away. And while after that's cut, check up on your chorizo and your meat. And you mix the chorizo. Ooh, look how nice and caramelization's on those onions. how the tomatoes are nice and delicate. They're starting to soften up. That's the sight you want to see right there. That's where you want to see your chorizo. Start putting it into lower heat. Right there. Delicious. Delicious. What are some of the first dishes you guys learned how to cook growing up? Like I said, mine is Frijoles Charros. My grandma taught me how to make quesadillas. Grilling. My father's a big griller, so I would watch him make carnitas, carne asadas, riblets. So those are some of the first dishes I learned how to cook. I would love to hear what you guys learned how to cook growing up. So put down in the comments some of your dishes you love growing up cooking. I want to see, and maybe we could have some of you guys come here or send the recipes and we can try cooking it here on Worthington's Kitchen. So next, you dice the ham. And you square it off, nice little squares. And remember, people, always remember to have a sharp knife. It's more dangerous to have a dull knife than a sharp knife because you're going to struggle with it, and that's how accidents can happen. There you go. And for the ham, I just do around, I get a small packet. I usually do half of the small packet. And then we throw it in the pan. And then you get your slotted spoon and you mix it, mix it. And then you can raise the heat to medium. And you want to mix it. Put that chorizo on top. Want it to be nice and cooked. Now we can start working on the beans while that's cooking. So I would recommend getting a large pot, and we're going to be using 3 medium-sized pinto bean cans. You could also buy a large can, usually at your local stores. And we'll be opening them, and then we'll start letting that boil while that cooks. So you get your handy dandy can opener. And now we start opening our cans of beans. So you get your lucky dandy can opener and you start opening it up.
You can smell it in the hall, boys.
That's good.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries.
Just wanted to
That's where you fix it. And then you put about 1 to 2 cans of water as well. We're gonna go with 1 today, just because we put all those other cans of beans, a lot of liquid. And you have to medium high. You want to get to a boil. Well, that's boiling, we check up on the meat, and then we mix in the bacon with the chorizo and the vegetables. So you're getting that all mixed up. And then we're gonna pour it in the pan. the garlic, the jalapenos, the tomatoes. All that flavor is gonna mix in with the beans. Nice Mexican chili. Nice, something warm to keep you warm in the fall and the winter. Flavorful right there. So you let that cook right there. And just keep that on a low heat while you're waiting for the beans to start boiling. I'm gonna keep this warm, nice cooking still. The vegetables are sauteed, the onions are caramelizing. Right there. You wanna hear that sizzle noise. You don't want it too hot, but you just wanna keep that sizzle noise going. Make sure that's still cooking. Nice on that low heat. Just wait for those beans to boil. Just keep an eye on your beans. Make sure once it hits any kind of boiling, doesn't have to be boiling like crazy, then you can start putting the meat in there, and then you let it cook still, and that's when it gets to a high boil. You can turn it off and it should be ready. And then you just make sure you stir the beans. All that liquor that was in the can, you want it to be nice and loose, so you want it to be watery just like that. So you make sure you mix your beans. You don't want it sticking to the bottom too. Right there, what a beautiful sight. And like I said, just wait till it gets to some boils. Once you see some of those bubbles, then we can start mixing the meat right in. Okay, now we're seeing the beans are starting to boil a little bit. You see all those bubbles in the edge is starting to boil. So now we can start adding the meat in. So then we get our spoon. Don't forget to turn off the fire. And we start mixing it in right there. What a delicious sight. Mix it up. And now we mix it right after this. And then you get your ladle and you mix it up. Let that cook right there. Some frijoles charros. Mexican cowboy beans. Good for the soul, good for the cold. Nice and flavorful. And have that all mixed. And then we just get that to a boil. So close the lid and just wait for it to boil. Thank you for everyone watching. My name is Oscar Martinez, and I had a wonderful time being your new host for Worthington's Kitchen. And for my first guest, Oscar Martinez, right over here. I can't wait to try these frijoles charros and to see what else is next that we're gonna cook. So if anybody watching, comment any recipes you want us to cook, or even if you wanna be on the show, we would love to have you as a guest. So once again, thank you for being on the show. And thank you so much, Oscar. I had a wonderful time. And I can't wait to be here on next and see what we cook together again. And like you said, it would be great if people from Worthington will come on the show and share some other recipes, because there's so much good food out there, and I'm more than happy to try it. And I'm sure a lot of people in town want to try these new recipes as well. So let's try those beans.